Hi guys, welcome to Sellapy Brand Owner Academy, the APY Ambassador Boot Camp. As I always say, this is not a course, this is your entry into ownership. Let's get it on. Yeah, this is the module 3 of the APY Ambassador Boot Camp. The title of this one is Build the Niche Brand System from Login to Launch. Build your digital storefront. The goal of this particular module is to help you to craft a powerful, purposeful and story-driven brand. And the module will follow the following outline. We'll go through the brand DNA. We'll go through the crafting a magnetic brand message, and by the end of this video you'll be able to write a brand story by going through the brand story formula, the visual identity that converts. You'll be able to understand the naming mastery and the brand asset checklist, and at the end of the day you'll be able to tick some checklists which are the prerequisites for you to be able to build a brand strategy that actually makes sense. So, and also you have your APY Toolkit set up at the end of the video as well. So let's get it on. So the brand DNA framework. I know you are familiar with the word brand, especially if you have watched the module 1 and module 2. We've been talking about a lot about brand, niche brand, but I just think it will be very important for us to dive deeply into what brand DNA is, which is why we have this brand DNA framework. And by abbreviation, we have the B, we stand for believe, the R, we represent the role, the A, we represent audience, the N represents narrative, and the D, which is the differentiator. So we're going to go through these acronyms one by one in the next slide. So by definition and by understanding, when it comes to the B part of the brand DNA framework, we stand for believe. There is a very important question you have to answer. What does your brand believe, and how does it change the status quo? And what does this mean? Like, if you are creating a brand, what does this brand mean to yourself, and what does the brand stand for in regards to the target customer you are building this brand for? I believe that for every brand to make sense, the brand must start for a belief. There must be a belief behind this brand that make you want to even pursue the crafting of this brand in the first place. And if you want to build a brand that actually stand out, I believe the brand must stand for something. What trigger it? What lights the fire for this particular brand? This is a belief system that your brand will stand on. It is like the foundation that you build your brand on top. I will give example of this as we go on, but just understand that for every brand there must be a belief behind it. Let's move to the R, which is the role. When it comes to the role, there is this important question you need to ask yourself as a brand builder. If your brand were to be a person, what role will it play in the life of your customer? So I want you to imagine that your brand is a human being. What role do you expect your brand to play in the life of the customer or client you are serving? For example, I want to imagine that if you are into herbal care, for example, you want your brand to stand as the cure. In this case, you are the medical practitioner, or you are the doctor. Your brand is the doctor in the brand building as a role. So that means you must make sure your brand stand or represent a particular role in the life of the customer you are serving. So you don't just build a brand blindly, or because you just heard something from someone and you just, because of that, you want to build a brand. No, you must envisage your brand to represent someone that is a specialist in that particular niche that you are building your brand around. So the very important question you have to think here is, what role does your brand play in the life of your customer, or in the life of the customer you are about to serve? So that is what the R stand for in this brand DNA. And the other one is, the next one is the audience, the A, which is the audience. So the very important question you need to ask yourself here is, who do you serve, and what do they crave emotionally? For every brand you want to build, or for every brand that you intend to embark on, there must be a targeted audience that you want to serve. If your brand does not target an audience, that means you are not building a brand, you are building something else. A brand must have a specific identity or a group of people that the brand want to serve. So, which is why I said you have to build your brand around a particular avatar, around a particular ideal customer profile, which we have talked in depthly about this in module 2. If you haven't seen the module 2 video, I advise you at this point to go back and watch this module, because this is where you will learn a lot about ideal customer profile. So your to come back to our slide, your brand audience must be well defined. If you define this, that's when you'll be able to build your brand around that particular audience. So let's move on, which is the N now, which is the narrative. What's your origin story, and how does it align with your customer's journey? I believe that a brand who has a story behind it always stand out in the crowd. If you want your brand to stand out, there must be an origin story for it. There must be something that ignites it. There must be something that a belief system, as we talked earlier on, that make the narration make sense in people's listening. So I believe that the best way you can get people's attention is to put a story behind your brand. That is it in simple words. If you want your brand to be remarkable and ring bells in people's head all the time, or you want it to be playing in their mind, you must put a story around it or behind it. A brand that doesn't have a story does not really stick well. You can see even big brands like Nike, they put a story around it. They even put a story around Jordan, the Jordan shoe. They put a story about an athlete, which is Michael Jordan, which has performed extraordinary in the basketball sport, and they try to put a story around it, which makes the Jordan shoes to be very relevant in the shoe market or sneakers market till date. So for every story you build around your brand, you make your brand to be memorable in the customer's mind. So you must have it at the back of your mind that if you want your brand to stand out, you must build a story or a narrative around it. So let's move on to the D part of the brand, which is the differentiator. So we believe there is a particular question you need to answer here as well. Why should someone buy from you instead of 100 other options? This actually makes sense. This question makes sense. Why should I buy from you? If we have especially nearly similar products in the market, you have so many competitors in the market, why do customers rush to you? You must differentiate yourself. That's the simple answer. You must differentiate yourself. You must make your product stand out in the crowd. There must be something that make you different and that attract your customer to run to you. Let's say, for example, you all are selling a mango fruit that is even sourced locally. Maybe your competitor, they just put this mango in basket and they just sell it straight to their customer. What about you going outside or thinking outside the box, and you package the mangoes very well, maybe in 3 packs, in a well ventilated pack, that you can now start selling to your customer in a well presented way, and you give a name and a brand to that particular package. So when the customer is even referring someone to it, they will just put a name to that mango. It will be different from just go to the market and get me a basket of mango. It will be something like, can you go and get me the top sherry mango, for example, and people know that, oh, there is a brand that is called Sherry that sells mango. It is easily described and it is even well presented because you have differentiated yourself from your competitor. The reality of this story, or in simple form, is I'm just trying to tell you that you must find a way to differentiate yourself from other competitor. These 5 things are the brand DNA. This is what I call the brand DNA framework. You must be able, for every brand, there must be a belief system that must play a role to a targeted audience with a significant and wonderful story driven narrative, and that differentiates itself from the competition. This together is what makes up the brand DNA framework. I hope you get this concept. Forget about blabbing. Forget about bragging about your brand. If your brand can be packaged around these 5 frameworks that I've mentioned, the 5 words that made up this framework, I believe you build something that is very relevant and significant in the market. I hope you understand it. So let's move on. Let's move on to talk about how the brand DNA framework can be applied to the diaspora culture. I always make a lot of referral to the diaspora framework, or diaspora heritage, or diaspora opportunity, because I believe so much that there is a mountain of wealth that is yet to be tapped within the e-commerce space, in the diaspora economy, or among the diaspora. The diaspora economy has enormous amount of purchasing power. These people make hard-earned money, and they are ready to spend if the right brand is there targeting them in the right way. Which is why I've decided to just come up with something that can actually draw an archetype around the diaspora cultural DNA. So in simple words, we believe that if you can carve your brand in a way that targets a particular audience in the diaspora, this can give your brand what is known as cultural or heritage advantage, because you are familiar with these people more than your counterpart competitor that are foreigner. You are so conversant with the right language, with the right color, with the right emotion, that you can build around this type of customer, or around this type of diaspora customer that you are trying to build. There is a culture that you guys already believe, which you are part of the culture as well. So it is easy for you to build a brand around them. If you can make use of this, your absolute advantage as someone that comes from a particular culture, and build a brand around it, and this will actually make you stand out, because you can speak your customer's language, you can speak your customer dressing code, you can actually sing the song they understand, you can make it look like you are part of them. It is your advantage. If you can take advantage of it, this will really help your brand a lot. Let's just move on to the next slide, which is crafting brand story. I believe so much that there is no way you want to build a brand and you can't tell a story that is magnetic in people's understanding. You have to build a story around it. There must be something that gave birth to the brand. This is what I personally believe is the backbone of every brand. If you want your brand to actually ring bells, if you want your brand to speak to that targeted customer in an extraordinary way, this brand must be originated from a story. So which is why I believe that the brand story formula is something that can actually help you. And with my own understanding, you don't have to even force yourself to create a story if you don't have one. But I believe that every one of us has a story. You can use the story of your neighbor, you can use your family story, you can use your city or country story, you can use someone else's case study to be your brand story. As I've mentioned earlier on in my previous lecture, which I make a reference to a lady that was a bread hawker and became a superstar. She became a superstar just because someone photographed her and everybody was just marveled with her story. I believe for every brand that have a true original story behind it, those kind of brand always thrive. So let's look at what can ignite a brilliant brand story. I believe that the very first thing you need to consider is the spark, which means that what problem or moment light the fire. If you are taciturn enough or brilliant enough to spot a case study that ignites a story that people can resonate with, I believe that is a clue for you that a brand can be built around it. So for you building a brand, what transpire, what ignites the fire, what problems bring about this brand you are trying to build? So you should start thinking towards that way, that okay, what ignites the fire, what problems is going on right now that I can build a brand around. So the other thing is, what is the struggle? What is the struggle? What are the challenges people you are trying to build this brand for? What are the struggles or the problems they are facing? What are the challenges they are facing that can make you build brand around them? So that means you must understand the struggle around a brand or around a specific target audience that you want to build a brand around. So let's move back a little bit. You must understand the spark, you must understand the struggle. If I say the spark, the problem, what lies the fire, especially in that moment. And when I talk about the struggle, you must understand the challenge the people you are building the brand for are facing at that moment. So let's move on. Which is the shift? What's change? Or what is this transformation you want to bring about? What is the evolution that you want to bring about? What is the revolution? So what change or the shift is, you are in point A and you want this to shift to point B. This is the way things are done now, but I want this to be done this way. What is something that you see differently? All this together is the shift you are trying to achieve. What is it that you are trying to achieve? What in your client perspective, what result do they want to achieve? What transformation are they inspiring or aspiring to achieve? These are the things you need to consider when it comes to crafting your story, your brand story. And finally, there must be a solution. There must be a solution that you've crafted. Why does your brand exist now? Which is your why and the solution. So you've been able to identify the problem and the challenges. You'll be able to identify the changes you can make. Then what is the solution you are trying to bring on board? Your solution, which is the benefit your customer will achieve or will gain, is the real transformation that will drag people to your brand. If you are not able to give your customer a cogent reason in the solution you are bringing to them, I tell you, you are not building brand. You are just playing around. If you want customers to actually believe in the brand you are building, I assure you, you must be desperate in solving a problem by bringing a solution that actually makes sense. You are not just coming to your client to build lies up or to lie about what you can't even, the solution you can't give them. Your brand must be built on truth that is helping them to solve a particular problem. So don't forget this brand story formula: the spark, the struggle, the shift, and the solution. All these together make an outstanding brand story. If you understand the way I put this together, the brand story formula, sit down, think about these 4 prerequisites and use it to build your story brand. I believe you craft something that is really touching and something that will stick with your customer forever. So let's move on. So crafting, once you understand this formula, you can now adapt it to create a magnetic brand message. Your brand message is something that resonates with your customers forever. If you are not able to craft a message that will ring bell in their head even when they are in their sleep, I think you have not really done a good job. You've really done it. You'll be able to do a good job once you are able to tell a message or pass a message that they remember even when they are in their sleep. So you must be able to define your brand promise clearly. For every brand you are building, there must be a specific promise that must be fulfilled. This promise is what makes your customer to stick with you, because if you promise them, they believe, they take you for your word, and they want that promise to be fulfilled. So you must always remember that you must define your brand promise very clearly and easy to understand to your customer. And not just the way you pass this message actually matters a lot as well. Remember, in the diaspora DNA architecture that I mentioned earlier on, that if you have a comparative or absolute advantage over other people's who are not from your culture that want to serve that same targeted customer, because you are from that culture, you are from that heritage, you can speak their language, because you belong to their tribe. So you must be able to craft a message that resonates with your tribe. You must be able to craft a message that resonates with your culture. That means you must speak their language. You must use your brand to speak their language in a way they understand. This is how magnetic brand messages are discovered or are crafted. So the transfer, I want to quickly differentiate between transformational message and functional message. And most of us that are really new in the brand building system always believe that, oh, you need to quickly tell you the benefits, the function of your product or of your brand. Moreover, I believe you are getting things wrong. You must be able to tell the message, the expectation or promise or the transformation your customer will get, rather than the promise your brand is making. Let me refine this in another way. You must be able to draft your message according to the transformation your customer will get, rather than defining the function your product or brand is giving. Let's say, for example, your products help people to clean in their face. Instead of you specifying or listing the function of the product itself, let's say, for example, this product is made of a top class sleek oil. This product facial serum is made up of organic herbal care products or ingredients, your customer does not care about that. That's just the reality. What your customer cares about is the transformation they will enjoy. Just tell them that in 5 days the acne on your face will be gone. In 5 days you will get a flawless face. In 5 days your face will be glowing. Those are the transformation that actually attract your customer. You must be able to understand how you pass the message to your customer. Your brand message must forecast or must predict or must promise a transformational message, not a functional message. I hope you can differentiate the difference between a transformational message and a functional message. So, to cut the story short, the purpose of building a magnetic brand message is for you to be able to build a strong message or a strong story message that stand as a pillar behind your brand. Your brand story must stand as the pillars that hold your brand firmly. Just understand that. I know I have a PDF that I will send to you guys later in the course, which helps you, which will guide you on how you can craft this brand message easily. So let's go on. So the other important part of this module is the visual identity that converts. What is the visual identity that converts or that makes your brand stand out? A lot of people made mistake with this one. You just think colors are chosen and just at random. You believe the typography are just chosen at random. You believe your logo should just be designed in the way you want, and you believe that the packaging is all about you, and none of these things I've listed there is about you. This should be about your targeted audience. This must speak their language. It must speak their identity. Say for example you want to create a brand around hearing, for example, and you start putting color that is so loud. You start using typography that does not even make sense, because you must put a color that show calmness, that show the soothness in the eye of the brand target. You should not choose a color that is loud, like choosing color like color red or awful color that does not speak your targeted audience language. You must choose something that is warm and calm in nature. Anyways, it's not about the color itself now, but it's just to choose something that suits the targeted audience. And I believe for every color identity that represents a brand, there must be two types of color. There must be the main color and the complementary color. And what does this mean? It does mean that whatever color you are choosing must be they must complement each other. Let's say for example you choose a deep blue as your main color. You can choose a very light off-white blue as the complementary color. This will complement each other. Or for example you choose a red, if you like very bright something, and you must choose a complementary of red or color white that complement each other. Don't choose something that is off balance. For example, you can't choose a purple and back it up with blue. It doesn't go well. You must choose something that complements each other and that look professional. I will show you example of some stores that we have in Sellapy, and